Looks like we're live, huh?
Not quite. It's still buffering. There we go.
Okay.
All right. Now you're live.
All right. Good afternoon. Calling to order the regular Finance Committee for the City of San Ramon for the month of October. And, has any member of the public braved the windy conditions to come to our meeting, Christina?
Before we start, I will read just the meeting procedures prior to. So the procedures adopted for this meeting meet or exceed the standards set forth in Governor Newsom's Order N-25-20, which allows public meetings like this one to be held by teleconference to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. At this time, it would be appropriate to conduct roll call, and I would ask the chair to recognize me afterward to confirm certain matters for the record.
Right.
Chair Alone.
Yeah.
And Vice Chair Perkins.
Here.
Thank you. And now I would like to verify that all members of the committee can hear me well. All members of the committee have been able to hear all previous speakers, including the roll call. And each committee member believes, based on facial or voice recognition, that all persons representing themselves to be a committee member are in fact committee members.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. And finally, as a reminder, any votes taken during this meeting must be taken by roll call.
Okay. And do we actually have to vote on this stuff, or I don't know as we do.
Needed voting.
Oh, we do have to vote on there's no public here, right, Christina? Is that correct?
That is correct. We have no public in the audience.
And we'll close public comment. Approval of minutes for July 27. Scott?
I'll move approval.
And I'll second that. So I guess that's all you more than need, right, Christina?
Yes.
Okay. We don't have any unfinished business. 5.1 Capital Improvement Program. Completed project budget analysis, FY 2019-20. Mr. Bornstein, hello.
Good afternoon. Hope all's well. We have some excitement here to tell you what was accomplished last year, and I'm going to pop up a little PowerPoint here to jump on the screen here. All right. Did everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Great. We're here to discuss fiscal year 19-20 completed projects. We have 17 projects for around 8.2 million that were completed last year. Happy to say we saved a little over $1 million. 2/3 of it was savings from the PMP 2019 and also the Crow Canyon rehab. A lot of that savings was real competitive bids. We also been separating out the packages to do the concrete ADA ramp work separate than the others. So it may be advantageous, easier for contractors to bid and only focus on the meat and potatoes of the paving instead of concrete work. So that's really good news. So I have a number of staff with me in case they go into, if you have detailed questions that I can't answer that they can dive into. But with that, I'll jump into highlight some of the projects that we completed last year. Okay. First one is the Alcosta Broadmoor Drive medium modifications. That one, you can look at the before picture, and that's at the Country Club Village Shopping Center there. As vehicles were coming out, making left-hand turns from both the shopping center and the Broadmoor, we had a lot of collisions and accidents there. So we want to improve that whole intersection. And by doing so, as you can see, we added this little pork chop island to not allow left turns from both the street and the shopping center going in. There's some other.
You have left turns from Alcosta, both east and westbound.
That's correct. You can still turn in, but from the side street here, as well as the shopping center, you can't make that left out. And that became the conflict zone, the number of accidents. So another visual of that, if you're looking across Broadmoor into the shopping center, you can see
Right.
how you can only turn onto Broadmoor or turn into the shopping center. You can't go straight through or make left. So that's helping to improve the overall traffic circulation. And the last one is just an aerial to kind of really show you. In the beginning, there's nothing, just a big opening here for all movements. And then we added this pork chop, so it really limits going right turn out only of both the shopping center and on Broadmoor. So
Have you had a lot of feedback, particularly from the people who live near that Broadmoor section?
yeah, what we had so far has been positive. Yes, you have to make a right turn. It may slow you down a little bit, but it's a lot safer. I think a lot of them reckon there have been a lot of near misses because it's just kind of a conflict zone where too many vehicles are making so many movements. So it's been positive overall. Yes.
Yeah, I see something like this, and I think about there's on Doherty, there's an exit entrance to the Gale Ranch Plaza that's on Doherty itself, and the county actually did something smart and didn't have an intersection there. They made it so you can't go southbound, and this is a classic example of why. That would have been a lot of lanes, and I understand better now why, because I see something like this, so makes sense. But we did it. I'm surprised how little it cost, frankly.
Yeah, it definitely is a good improvement for the amount of money spent. So, and on the next one is Crow Canyon Road pavement rehab. We rehabilitated the road from St. George to Doherty Road. If you're into all the numbers, there's 73,000 square yards of slurry seal and base repairs, 1.6 million. Not only getting the road redone, but what's exciting about, if you look at the slide on the corner, is just going hand in hand with not just getting the road done, but getting some of the bike improvements done also. So we've been really trying to couple those together. As you can see here, not just the road done, but now we have a bike buffer lane, so you can ride your bike, and then on top of that, just past it, you have the conflict green spot improvements that really help where there's turn lanes and intersections and things like that. So we've been trying to marry those together when we're doing a lot of this work. So we're getting both the road accomplished as well as some bike improvements. PMP 2019, again, lots of numbers of what we completed last year. One of the highlights is we did do a rubberized chip seal. That occurred, so 4.3 million costs. Nice thing, again, a lot of the funding is not from general fund, gas tax, and other funding.
What section used the GAD money?
The GAD reserve, I had to look and see.
Is that on Albion?
Yeah, I need to confirm that, unless Rob or someone can jump in on that.
Yeah, I believe it is Albion. That's the work that we completed.
Corrugated.
Get rid of those undulations.
Yep.
Yeah. Councilmember Hudson will talk about those for another 10 years as an example, but they're fixed. So yeah, they were quite corrugated. So that was a smart move. I think we got some FEMA money for that too, or something. I seem to recall there was something along those lines, I thought, but doesn't matter. One thing I'd be curious about, how many miles of conflict lanes have we installed at this point? I don't expect to have that number right here, Maria, but it'd be a good thing to know, because that's a big part of the bicycle strategic plan. So good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, and I have one other question. My own anecdotal observations. My street, Rosencrest Drive and Lilac Ridge, I think they were slurried relatively early on in my tenure on the council, and they're starting to look a little ratty. And I'm wondering if, I guess that's probably 8 years. Maybe that was early in the slurry process. Has it improved? Because they're kind of looking a little tired. So I'd be curious. And we were early in the whole, I mean, they were the first part, we're
Yeah.
Gale 1. So I was just curious if that process has improved or just what one would expect 8 years in.
8 years, you are going to start seeing some deterioration because it is slurry. That's the point of it, of the material. And I think Robin's listening in on this, but I'll go ahead and speak. But we may be using something different like micro seal as far as slurry seal, which may have been used on your street. So we're always looking at different methods that will get the slurry to last a little bit longer.
Okay.
And there's Robin.
All right. Well, actually, leading into that about different evolving methods and technologies, I did want to point out with the 2019, there was a rubberized chip seal. And that occurred, I'll list kind of the streets on Interlachen and Medina Place. With the rubberized, instead, just a traditional cape seal with the chip seal and then a slurry seal after. They've added in the rubber into it, and it really solidifies it more. And we've had some good success with those two streets. So we may utilize that on 2020 with the different options we use and treatment methods for 2021. So it's good to note we did a trial on that in those two streets, and it's come out real favorable. So again, yes, as you're mentioning, Alone, that evolving technologies do come out with different, means and methods of doing things, and usually it's for the better. So anyway, with PMP, lots of work, various roads. You can see Albion, Monarch, Stoneleaf, Wedgwood, then some areas in Old Ranch Estates, some of the parking lots. And then again, in Doherty Valley, you're correct, Phil, is we did not hit Gale 1, but there was a big focus for a lot of areas in Doherty Valley, which was Gale 2 and 3, and a good portion of Windermere. So we did hit all that pretty hard with the slurry and for last year. Next, we have just stopgap work, different areas of the city to just keep things rolling. We had localized repairs on Bollinger, Doherty, Old Ranch, Windermere, just different areas that needed a little help before, being programmed in for the PMP. A lot of crack sealing on Crow Canyon Road. And as you see in the picture, the before and the after looks like a real beauty in the after product versus the before. Parking lot paving also happened. This is an example just up at Memorial Park. This is actually the path that rolls around the park. You can see the before and after there, along with the treatment of the parking lot itself. Bicycle network improvements, as you guys are hinting on earlier, we are continuing on with a number of phases, and from the bike master plan, trying to implement as much as we can citywide. Executive Parkway, you can see that had some new striping done. There was not a bike lane, so that was created, and created that buffer zone, like I mentioned, and the bike lane. San Ramon Valley Boulevard, this is looking towards Montevideo, but there's a good portion now of San Ramon Valley Boulevard that has all the green conflict zones and spot improvements to just make the cyclists feel a little safer on the road, and even drivers noticing more with all these improvements.
Yeah. Well, it's probably the most traveled by bikes street in the city, right? So
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So we'll continue on with that. A number of improvements still on the books each year to keep moving forward with the master plan. Safe routes to school. We had the at the Gale Ranch Middle School, we had the RRFB, the rectangular rapid flashing beacon. You can see in the before, there's really was no equipment or anything that just went across. And then on the after, you can actually see the sign, and that's ditto for the other side that flashes and just alerts the motorists of people crossing much better. That was kind of a partnership between the city, the school, and the school district. So it was kind of split in thirds, really. The school paid some, and the actual school itself, Yale Ranch, had their funding source, the school district and the city. So that's been completed. Of course, not many people at school right now, but it has been completed. Moving to city facilities floor covering, we did the San Ramon Community Center dance floor. That was completed, a little over 100,000. The recreation program and facilities, there's a number of improvements last couple years for both what was programmed in fiscal year 17, 18, 18, 19. Projectors, microphones, and other appurtenances that got installed at the Doherty Valley Performing Arts Center. And then also, I'll show you some pictures of some items at the San Ramon Community Center as well. So San Ramon Community Center, we got some lobby furniture installed, and we also got some audio visual equipment upgrades in some of the rooms. Bollinger Canyon Median Landscape. That is over in the area on Norris, near Norris. And you can see the improvements there. It's been completed, and it pretty much completes the whole segment along Bollinger, heading towards the police and city center area.
Looks very nice.
Great.
Yes, it does.
Like to hear that. Zone 6, we have a lot of different zone work, obviously, throughout the city. This was just repairing, replacing areas of the sound wall. This is between Indian Rice and Doherty, so you can see the before and after there. We also have a number of zones that we've had irrigation cabinets and controller upgrades. West side, for instance, there'll be a few other slides, other locations. Circle E EVA repairs completed. That's zone 15. Centralized irrigation system, again, more irrigation controllers. Controllers at Ivy Leaf and other locations. Citywide park amenities continue to upkeep on the parks. We've got Athen Downs Field 1 backstop. We also we resurfaced basketball court, tennis courts out at Coyote Creek.
Does the backstop at Athen Downs say Bill Clarkson mayor like they do in Chicago? Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't add that extra feature, but yes. And then we have picnic table replacements at some of the parks, Village Green, Centennial Parks, rotating those out as they get weathered and past their useful life. Drinking fountain replacements at Red Willow Senior Center. Bollinger Fountain, one of the bigger fountains. You can see picture the pump, and all the assembly was had to be replaced, a little over 100,000 there to keep that rolling and give a good visual out there. Athen Downs, the irrigation booster pumps were installed. There's the before and after there.
What did they need the booster pumps for?
The booster pump just helps provide more pressure for the system.
Oh, okay, so you get a broader expanse of the water going out or something. Huh? Okay.
And the last one is Hooper Drive widening. This one was done. This was a developer project. As you can see, this was the old, you can even see the budget trucks there. A lot's happened since then. And we got the developer to improve the road up to the end of their frontage there. So that's just been completed. So the before and then much different. There's the after and the carpet place next door, but the new development over here. and redid all that. So that pretty much concludes all the excitement in Public Works as far as the CIP program. We do enjoy to kind of highlight things and all the stuff that's accomplished. And if you guys have any questions or comments, then I can answer, or some of the other staff.
Go ahead, Scott.
Alcosta near the hospital. That road is, we put millions into fixing it, and it's kind of bumpy still. Or again, any comment? Robin, Brian, Maria, somebody.
I'll defer to Rob and see if he has.
Oh, good.
There we go. It's going to let me in. Yeah, there is still some movement out there. There's particularly some longitudinal cracking at the edge of the road on the adjacent to that median.
Yes.
That's a difficult thing to deal with, as we did a lot of subgrade improvement out there to try and minimize it. But if you got an open slope like that, that's landscaped in this area, it's almost impossible to eliminate. Fortunately, what I've noticed, at least, is the majority of the movement is now limited to closest to that median, as opposed to right through the travel lane. And I think some of it is also due to the treatment itself. It tends to result in a little bit of block cracking, which is also one of the phenomenon that I see out there. But it's really difficult to do anything further than that. Other than
On
surface
Cinnamon
treatments.
Valley Boulevard, northbound, all the way at the south end of the city, kind of down by Forest Home Farms, well, actually south of there.
Yep.
Where Cinnamon Valley Boulevard is quite an elevation above I-680. I'm noticing that the far right lane there is starting to fail in some very bad ways. Any thoughts on that?
That is actually, it's not a dissimilar problem. That's really associated with the long-term slow slope movement that you get when you have a relatively steep slope adjacent to the road with an open face on it down to the freeway. So that's a challenging problem. Clearly, we don't want to be doing things on the Caltrans right of way, and they're probably not inclined to do much on their slope to help us. But as we get in there, fortunately, it's relatively minor compared to, say, what the problem was on Alcosta. So when we get in there and do surface treatments, we can take some of that out.
Okay.
So that's essentially a design problem of dealing with the slope's too steep to have a slope that steep. Is that kind of what?
Well, it depends how you optimize it overall. That's one way to think of it, yes. But to really lay the slope back flat enough to eliminate that problem, given the soil conditions we have here, would have been impractical.
You wouldn't put a road there, right? So
yeah,
that's kind of a moot point. Okay. Scott, any other questions?
No, thank you very much for the report. We got a whole lot done. I got a tour today of the main community center with Sandy, and I'm really pleased with how everything came out over there. It looks really nice. Too bad we can't let the public in, but it really does look nice, and I'm glad we got the work done with minimum impact on the public. I'm looking forward to getting the work done then at the Olympic pool, and then moving out to Dougherty Station to get that one fixed up. Thanks very much, Brian, Maria, and all your team.
Yep. Thanks for all the pictures. If you didn't like showing this stuff off, you shouldn't be in this line of work. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right. Eva, you're going to tell us about the preliminary unaudited general fund results, huh?
Yes.
Or is Candace going to do it?
I'm going to do it.
Okay.
So this is see, for fiscal year 1920, kind of giving you a preliminary look at how we're ending up at June 30th, 2020. We actually had our final audit start on October 12th, and they're just wrapping things up. So we should have a draft in the next 2 weeks, which Candace will review it, and then we'll present it to the Finance Committee probably sometime in late November. So we'll probably have to do a special meeting for that. But just to kind of go over, let's start with the revenue. Total revenue for the year is ending at 50.5 million. That's 2.2 million or 4.3 below the budget, and about 3.8 million or 7% lower than the previous year. Just to kind of give you some highlights of the different revenue categories. Under property tax, we came in at about 21 million. Actuals are about 296,000 below budget. And that's due to our San Juan Valley Fire Protection District property tax sharing agreement has ended with the safety complex. In that agreement, we kind of eliminated that and kind of got merged into that. So we didn't get that payment for the year. Comparing it to 18-19, our revenue is up by 138,000 or 0.7%. And basically that's our secure property taxes actually was 3.8% higher than the previous year. But the county portion of the Bishop Ranch tax sharing agreement is 50% higher than the previous year. So the county is getting more, and that's only because City Center sales tax did so well. And the way we calculate that, it's always calculated on the previous year. So what the county keeps in our calculation of TOT and sales tax is from 18-19. So just like this year, 2021, we'll be using the final numbers from 19-20, which is going to be a lot lower. So our transfer back to the county will be a lot less than probably what we budgeted. On the sales tax is at 10.4 million. Actuals are about 337,000 above the budget. So we did a little bit better than we anticipated. Our compared to 18-19, our revenue is down about 516,000, and that's due to just COVID. A lot of the revenue streams, the reason for it is COVID related. Property transfer tax, 659,000. The actuals are 183,000 below budget. Compared to 18-19, our revenue is down 159,000, and that's just due to low volume of home resales. TOT, which is the transient occupancy tax, we're coming in at about 2.3 million. The actuals are 1.1 million below budget. This is the one revenue stream that probably got hit the most due to COVID. Compared to 18-19, we're down about 948,000. And that, like I said, that's just due to COVID shutdown of hotels. Franchise tax fees, 5 million we came in. Actuals are about 715,000 below budget. Compared to 18-19, revenue is up 218,000 or 4.6%. And we really should have done better than that, but COVID, I think for the business community, our revenues are down for that. License and permits, 2.1 million of actuals, but that's 178,000 below budget. And compared to 18-19, revenues down about 701,000 or 25%. And that's just due to COVID, and it's due to the building permits and is the one area that was down for that in comparison to last year, but it's still development has a lot to do with it too. Intergovernmental, this one we received about 1.4 million in revenue. It's the actuals are 1.2 above budget, and that's really due because we received the CARES funding from the state. We received 1.2 million, even though we received it in increments this fiscal year, but majority of the expenditures we show as reimbursement for last year. So we were able to accrue that to last year's numbers. So in compared to 18-90, it's just up, revenue is up 953,000. Then we did receive a little bit more in our SLEF grant and some SB 90 mandated claims. Charges for services, another revenue stream that was hit pretty hard from COVID shutdown. The total revenue is 5.2 million. Actuals was about 393 below budget. Compared to 18-19 revenue are 1.5 million below, or 22.6%. And that's another COVID shutdown. It affected passports that got shut down. Parks and Recreation was the biggest hit in aquatics, theater, special events, youth and teen programs, sports, and seniors, pretty much across the board within that department. Fines and forfeitures, total revenue 226,000, about 102 below budget. Compared to 18-19 fiscal year, revenue was down about 93,000. Investment income, we're about 247,000. Actuals are about 172,000 above budget. And it's down from last year, but we saw some really high numbers last year due to the accruing of how we do our market adjustments. Miscellaneous revenue, we're at 1.9 million, 979,000 below budget. Compared to fiscal year 18-19, we're down about 920,000 or 32%. And again, COVID shutdown and Parks and Rec, they've seen a significant drop in their contributions and all their rentals of facility pools and fields because that was all shut down. So that's on revenue. Any questions with the revenue so far? Okay. On the expenditures, total.
On transient occupancy tax, do we collect that monthly, quarterly? What's the, when we get it from the hotels?
We get it from them monthly.
Are you starting to see that pick up? Because I'm noticing over by I drive by the Courtyard and the extended stay frequently, and I notice their parking lots doing pretty good.
I don't have a number or if how they're doing. I know we're working on this quarter ending September. You should have received that report in this presentation agenda. However, we had so many other competing things going on. But it will be on the next agenda, which is in 2 weeks on the 9th. So you will be able to see
Yep.
for 3 months of this year.
Give me a reading on that one as compared to like 2 years ago. See where the TOT is, because
Okay.
the Marriott, I don't know how the Marriott's doing because I don't drive by there, but I do drive by those two frequently, and their parking lots seem to be doing pretty good.
Yeah, we'll give you an update on those.
Thanks.
Okay, going over to the expenditures, total overall expenditures were 45.4 million. That's 3.1 million or 6.5% below budget. And it's 1 million or 2.2 lower than the previous fiscal year. So throughout all departments, all the spending was down. And that's due to just cutting down costs. Some departments had vacancies like police and public works, and even in admin services. And also in Parks and Community Services, a lot of their temporary staffing, since they had to shut down a lot of programs, they didn't bring any, they didn't have a lot of part-time activity. Okay, so going along, just on wrapping everything up on the transfers in and out, we saw some improvement in that. Our transfers in, we received a little bit more than we budgeted. That's due to return to source of some CIP projects that went back to general fund. The transfers out was a lot less than we anticipated, and that's because in the Doherty Valley, we show a transfer going over there. We didn't have to transfer as much as we had anticipated because there was savings from departmental expenditures, about 1.5 million. So we saw a significant decrease in our transfers out to the Doherty Valley. So overall, the recap for the reserves, we're showing that the general fund increased by 1.5 million to the reserves. However, we still had to make the 1.5 or $1.6 million payment in the debt service fund. So as you can see, our beginning balance as of July 1, 2019 was 29.9. General fund increased its reserves by 1.5. We used the remaining $470,000 in Doherty Valley. So Doherty Valley is now at 0 of reserves, and the debt service 1.6 million. So overall, we used about $521,000 in reserves to cover fiscal year 1920. So our reserves was at 24.9, is at 24.4 at the end of that last fiscal year. So that's my presentation for the preliminary, and hopefully in a few weeks we can have a draft to you to see kind of where we officially have ended the year. If you have any other questions, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, so we're at 53% of estimated
We are
expenditure
at 53% of reserves.
of expenditures, right?
Expenditures, yes. And our policy says 36%, so we're well above our policy minimum.
I think this might be the poster child for why having big reserves doesn't make any sense. I mean, if you look at what we've weathered, it's been people buckling down and figuring out how to do stuff, not just trying to feed at the reserve trough. Been through the worst thing that can happen to a city, and our reserves go up. So going to the 36% was a good move by the majority of the council. Let the record reflect.
Yeah.
So Eva, is this your final finance committee, by the way?
No, I still have a few more.
Oh, okay. Wasn't sure.
Yeah, I have a few more meetings.
All right. I don't have any other questions. I'm frankly pleasantly surprised, and it's a lot of great work went into this. And how down was our gas tax money? I must have taken a big hit.
We will know. I don't know, but I can probably get that information because I was only focusing to give this presentation on general fund, but I'll look at the gas tax.
I'd be curious because I think I've filled my tank up 3 times in 7 months and used to fill it once a week. So, all right, thanks. Thanks very much. It's good news. All right, next item.
Good afternoon. You have before you the quarterly investment report for the period ending September 30th, 2020. The balance of the city's demand deposits at JP Morgan Chase were 2.6 million, and this is money that we can use on a regular basis if we are short on cash for any reason. The portfolio that's managed by FHN Financial had 72.1 million at September 30th, which was made up of 49 million in federal securities, 3 million in treasury securities, 4.5 million in commercial paper, 7.9 million in corporate notes, 5.2 million in FDIC insured CDs, 1 million in supranationals, 1.5 million in municipal bonds. The weighted average yield to maturity on investments was 1.51%, and the weighted average days to maturity was 627 days, which is 39 days shorter than the previous quarter. Interest rates were 49 basis points lower than the previous quarter. The balance we had in our money market at Union Bank was 3.3 million, which made up 3.91% of the portfolio. The interest rate for the money market is 0.01%.
Hey, it's really positive as opposed to Switzerland or Germany where it's negative. I suppose that's a good thing.
But so we received very little money in the money market.
Yeah.
And then with LAIF, we had 9.3 million. So we made an effort to put more money in LAIF because the interest rate was higher at 0.66%, which was 10.93% of the portfolio. The investments held by trustees total 15.9 million. of which the majority was the 2019 certificates of participation balance, which was 14.5 million. Are there any questions?
No, it's always interesting reading this report and the accompanying charts, particularly the national and California charts. I found those fascinating.
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Candace. And
So will be moving this forward to the council for,
all right,
Tomorrow's council meeting. So the next one is the PAR statement for September 30th. So we started the balance. This is actually a monthly statement, not a quarterly statement. So it just starts the balance at the 4.5 million. And we had a loss of 61,000, expenses of about 1,800. And we ended the month at 4.4 million. So I just want to point out about, the statement and the PARS portfolio in general, that us taking a loss like that, we have 50% in the stock market and then 50% in bonds. So of course, whatever happens with the stock market is going to have a bigger effect on, trust. Are there?
No, we can't put that in a money market fund and think that's going to do us any good. I see at the 1 year, we're at 5.0%. So
and have we gained back the losses that showed in the first quarter?
yeah.
Is that
So for the quarter, I mean, this is just a monthly statement, but for the quarter, we actually did have a gain of 4.5%. So, and PARS doesn't actually have a quarterly statement. I'm going to try to work on that and see if they can provide anything, because this is just showing a snapshot of September where the market had a loss between 8 and 9% that month.
okay?
how much did we actually put into it in the first place?
You mean from the very beginning, or?
Yeah, what have our contributions been?
We started off, we recently put 1.5 million, of which 750,000 is still in the money market. So we've been gradually putting lump sums from the money market into investments. So we started off with, I think, originally from the beginning of 1.5 million, but our most recent one was 1.5 million. But I don't have all of the contributions. I could get that for you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I don't. All right.
Dan Bornstein kind of raised his eyebrows when I mentioned we had, $4.5 million in a pension trust. So that in years 2024, 2025, 2026, when we kind of peak, we can feed that peak without hurting our services.
Right. So moving on to the next item then.
By all means.
The CalPERS CERC Trust. So we started off the beginning, the quarter at 32.8 million, and we had good earnings, 1.4 million, and administrative fees of 4,200 and investment expense of about 3,100, ending with 34.1 million. Are there any questions about that?
No. That's of course very good too, that we're one of the few cities that has anywhere near 90% or above in our OPEB. So bravo for everyone here.
Okay.
When do you have is this a year that you do that the actuaries come in?
We just completed the actual
Okay.
back in the spring for this, and it'll be, all that information will be in the CAFR. So we have 2 more years to do it again.
Okay, thank you.
We did have some discussions over time, even with the finance committee, that we may want to make a policy of a minimum funding level, maybe not 100% right, because the actuary is going to do it, but maybe the council can state that the OPEB is minimum is 90% or some number that the council feels comfortable with. And then as part of the budget process, then we would ensure that it would never go below that number, almost like a reserve kind of thought process.
So you don't, by saying you don't have to be at 100%, you're not subject to the actuarial thing so much. Gives you a bit of
It gives us a little
leeway.
room, and it's because it's going to bounce around a little bit with the actuarial,
Sure.
and we don't have a minimum funding policy in which every year we can do that, and if the council wants it at 100%, and obviously as that actuary or as the impacts to medical payments and stuff that affect it hit it, we can then every budget year we can bring it to 100%. But I think that may be a little bit too aggressive, and that you lose a little flexibility. And if it's 90%, there's some flexibility in there for above that minimum. Yet it allows us to make decisions if we formulate that into a policy. So we discussed that as to whether or not the council would like to have that as policy. Right now, we just look at it and, well, we really haven't had to make the decision other than because we're above 90 or whatever, but that may be something we'd like to.
Well, we did the policy and we just said we would just try to make sure that we're putting the normal cost in there. So we didn't say that we would 100% fund it, but we said we would fund it to make sure that we're putting in the actual payment that keeps us at the level that we're at. Pretty much.
Not based on the actuary though, right?
Right.
Based on the normal costs, but as these actuaries come in, that the fluctuation happens, right? With the actuary every time they come in. And so do we want to incorporate a minimum funding threshold as part of the current policy? Do we, as the council, will the council like to say, whatever that number may be, we will not go below 90%, and if that, or 95% or whatever you want. And then as that actuary comes in, then obviously the next budget year, we would ensure that it hit that percentage. Or we can do it kind of based on based on as they come in and present to council every year.
If staff wants the council to have a policy, I'm more than open to working on creating one. Give us a draft and we'll put a number in it. But I'm satisfied that the work we're doing now and the way we're financing it it's fine, so long as we keep making payments into it roughly equal to what we're spending out of it. We're going to stay close to 90 or above, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should, unless something strange with the actuary happens. It should not be a major issue. It's just a question. I mean, we wouldn't even need to really bring language to you. You could give us a threshold or just say, we'll continue to, which is in our policies, that we'll pay the normal cost. That's currently there.
And we
So
also put in there additional discretionary payments. When the OPEB plan is less than 100% funded, the city council may, at its own discretion, make an additional contribution from year-end budget surplus. So we do have that in there. We didn't put a dollar amount or a percentage. It's just when it falls below 100%, it's up to the council. And we'll bring that up at budget time if it falls below.
I think what we have for policy on that is fine. And if I get the sense that this thing is underfunded, we can talk about it and find a way to put a few more bucks into it. We have money in the reserve.
As a future retiree, I really get concerned if it's under 100%,
Yeah.
I think this is this is a hallmark of a well-managed city. It's an outlier and in a good way. So Yeah, I mean, to me, 90% and kicking in what you paid out is probably a good place to be, just kind of instinctively.
Yes.
Well, how about if we just bring back some language to amend that policy with an actual number? Even I've talked about this for a while.
Sure.
We'll
Okay.
bring it back a 90% just to amend that policy just in that. And that way there is I think the floor, having a floor, whether we ever remotely hit it, but at least it will signal to future councils, and then it takes some of the
Guesswork.
confusion away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we
Okay.
find ourselves at 87 or 84% for some curious reason, the council will take action to make sure it's over 90%.
Right.
And I think that's a good thing going forward.
And at this point, 5% of this would be $1.5 million or so, right? That's not an inconsequential amount of money.
No.
Okay. All right. That's fine with me.
Okay.
Is that, I think that's
The agenda?
the agenda.
Okay.
All right. Next meeting is on November 9th.
Oh, yeah.
And guess I'll see you folks tomorrow evening, at least some of you. Thanks very much. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you.
Bye.